Now I call upon Jeet, who will take us back to the annals of history, whereby the struggle for freedom and independence began, and the man and courageous woman fought diligently for their birthright, that is Swaraj.
Good morning. 69 years ago, on 14th of August 1947, the first Prime Minister of independent India, Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru, broadcasted a message. At the stroke of the midnight hour, when the world sleeps, India will awake to life and freedom. The following day, the triumphant victory of the struggle of Indian independence was celebrated with jubilance across the country as Swaraj was finally achieved. But the irony is that the people who were the first to establish a civilization, the people who established the very first university in the world, the people who taught the world how to count, giving them the number system, the people who gave the Pythagoras theorem even much before Pythagoras himself was born, the people who used to perform complex surgeries 3,000 years ago, extended their utmost servility to a nation which is not even 1/13 of its size. Such were the riches and brilliance of our culture, heritage, and economy, that India was called the Golden Sparrow. Lord Macaulay, once addressing the British Parliament in 1835, went on record to say, "I have traveled across the length and breadth of India, and I have not seen one person who is a beggar, who is a thief. Such wealth I have seen in this country, such high moral values, people of such caliber, that I do not think that we would ever conquer this country unless we break the very backbone of this nation, which is our spiritual and cultural heritage. And therefore, I propose that we replace her old and ancient education system, her culture. For if the Indians think that all that is foreign and English is good and greater than their own, they will lose their self-esteem and their native self-culture. And they will become what we want them, a truly dominated nation." And they did it. When the British arrived at the source of India, India's share in the world economy was 23%. When they left in 1947, it was down to just 3%. Britain's industrialization was a direct result of India's deindustrialization. They brought down the traditional weaving market. They took the raw materials to Manchester. They produced it there, and they sold it back to the Indians at exorbitant prices. The farmers were exploited. They were made to grow crops that didn't help any of Indians, but helped to just create famines in the country. It trembles me to the core, telling you that the number of Indians killed by British-induced famines reached a staggering sum of 85 million by 1947. And if we count the people executed for rising against this crown, the death toll rockets to 1.8 billion. That is just 600 million more than the current population of India. So basically, even if Hitler repeats the Nazi Holocaust 300,000 times, he might not break the British record. Indeed, my friend, freedom is not free. The price paid by our forefathers was blood, and blood only. The British first became politically well established as the East India Company after defeating Nawab Siraj-ud-Dawla in the Battle of Plassey 1757. The struggle for freedom mushroomed in the southern India. Polygarchs like Veera Pandya Kattabomman from Tirunelveli waged a war against the British before the first war of Indian independence. It was then, in 1857, that Indians were on a major offensive under the leadership of the last Mughal Emperor, Bahadur Shah Zafar. The Indian soldiers of East India Company and rebels massacred the British. Thousands of Europeans were killed by the rebels. Not even women and children spared. The frustration and anger of being oppressed by the white skin vented out in a way that shook the United Kingdom by its very foundations. However, Britain was able to violently subdue the uprising. But the revolt made Rani Lakshmibai, Tatya Tope, Mangal Pandey the immortal heroes of the struggle of independence. The spark of 1857 created fervor of nationalism throughout the country. And in 1885, the educated elites of the society established the Indian National Congress. Congress saw greater support when leaders like Bal Gangadhar Tilak proclaimed, "Swaraj is my birthright and I shall have it." First World War in 1914 to 18 showed another ray of hope for home rule for the Indians. India contributed 1/6 of the British forces, supplied 70 million rounds of ammunition, 600,000 machine guns and rifles, 42 million garments for the soldiers, and 173,000 animals. The total value of India's contribution was 8 billion pounds. Added to that, 54,000 killed, 65,000 wounded, and 4,000 missing soldiers. And what did Britain give us in return? It gave us a day that will be remembered for centuries altogether. 13th of April 1919, Jallianwala Bagh massacre, where Brigadier General Dyer opened fire upon an unarmed gathering of 15,000 men, women, and children, blocking all possible exits. This led to a new generation of revolutionaries who were under a maddening spell, determined only to free India out of the clutches of the British. Bhagat Singh, as a young Sikh boy, wandered into the blood-ridden and gloom-stricken Jallianwala Bagh. The sight of the dead bodies scattered like rags on the blood-soaked ground fired up his soul, and his heart cried for vengeance. Bhagat became a symbol of India's independence. He represented the youth of India. He wrote extensively on nationalism for the leading newspapers and journals. He bombed the Central Legislative Assembly, was involved in the Kakori loot and Saunders assassination, all in retaliation to the atrocities of the British. He was convicted and was hanged. This man knew no fear of death. For him, the country came first, always and every time. Another revolutionary who clashed head-on with the British Army with 60,000 odd men of Indian National Army was Subhash Chandra Bose. He was a man of iron guts. He was an inspiring leader. He proclaimed, "You give me blood to freedom." In 1956, Lord Clement Attlee, the Prime Minister of England during the independence, he was asked that, why did the British leave India even after the Quit India movement of 1942 led by Gandhiji was largely unsuccessful and was crushed? To this, the Premier replied that it was the activities of the Indian National Army led by Subhash Chandra Bose and the Royal Indian Navy mutiny that weakened the foundations of the British in India. It made them realize that armed forces of India cannot be trusted anymore, and they have to leave. Such glorious and inspiring was the saga of Indian independence. It feels as if it all happened yesterday. The youth nowadays dreams big. Big car, big bank balance, big house. There's nothing wrong in dreaming, but one must ponder that the dreams that we see, will they be of any help to the nation at large? Or are they just for personal gain and the opportunities that we want for us? The youth today are fleeing from India, and it is not helping. The brain drain problem has costed a lot. People like Satya Nadella, Sundar Pichori, on whom we put so much of pride, I don't think they are pride of the nation. But what is our real pride is when these people come back to India and raise the same multinationals here. What do you think would have been the reason that after studying in abroad, the financially well-off families of the Gandhis, the Nehrus, the Khans returned back to India? The reason was they had a dream. They had a dream to see us, the future generations of India, free. Free and free. And I promise you, my friend, if you are with me, India will be a global superpower on the shoulders of this very generation. Jai Hind, Jai Bharat.